Hi, this is Charles X. White,
This is State Representative Ron Reynolds.
inviting you as our special guest Monday night at 6:30 p.m. We have issues that we have to talk about, and we have to solve them, and we have to address them. We're going to talk about HCC, HISD, TEA, and corruption at City Hall. Yes, and we're also going to have an update from our State Representative Ron Reynolds on some legislation that impacts education as well.
I'm at the Capitol. We're in the legislative session right now, and I'm asking you to join me Facebook Live on Charity Productions on Monday at 6:30. We're going to have a very informative discussion about the state of public education in Texas. It's at a crisis. There are so many issues dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion, vouchers, HISD takeover by the TEA, and so many other issues. I want you to join me as we have a real live, in-depth conversation with Charles X. White. Join me Monday, 6:30 p.m. Be there.
They're coming through the front door, the back door, and the window. Yeah, we're going to talk about everything. Welcome back. We're having a special edition of Facebook Live, Charity Productions, Community Views and Solutions. We finally made the internet connect with State Representative Ron Reynolds, and he's on deck. State Representative Reynolds, are you on deck?
I'm right here, Charles. Thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties. We are live here from the Texas State Capitol in my office, and I appreciate your patience, and I'm ready to speak truth to power and be transparent and tell it like it is.
Okay, so let's go with, we had HCC on Trustee Prieta Vanderbilt, and we had Miss Marion Tolan on.
I know, I love both of those ladies. They both keep it real.
That's right. And we talked about HCC a little bit. We talked about policing and the process that she went through with her son. And then I ended it with the letter from the superintendent that I read that first part about. So that's the part that we are going to be talking about with you, is the legislation, TEA, the advocacy, all of those things, because when I got this email from this that's addressing this issue with Senate Bill 8. So what is there a companion bill? I'm going to read what this superintendent said. Then I'm going to come to you to ask you, what's the companion? What do you think about it? Those kind of questions as a follow-up.
Okay.
Then we'll get to TEA. We'll get to HISD.
Let's go.
Okay. Senate Bill 8 is sweeping education legislation that includes the introduction of education saving accounts as a mechanism to divert public taxpayer funds to pay for private school education. Is there a companion bill with this in the House? And what's the status on both of them? And just give us a little your insight on that.
Charles, I think it's so important that you brought this issue to the forefront. The superintendent of Alief ISD was right to send this letter out. It's all superintendents across the public schools in all 254 counties in Texas should be very concerned about Senate Bill 8. And to answer your question directly, yes, there is a House companion bill that is basically this is a charter bill. This is a charter bill. I mean, a voucher bill that is disguised as a, quote, school choice, because people know that vouchers are using public funds to support private school tuition. Your tax dollars are supplementing rich folks' ability to send their kids to their private institutions, their private schools. So Senate Bill 8 is a bill that Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick and the MAGA extremists on the right have wanted to do for decades. But now they are getting traction because they've won more elections and they have more conservative representatives in the Texas Senate and the state house. They are catering to the far right, the MAGA extremists that want to gut our public schools and support the wealthy, the well-to-do. So this is a case of the have and the have-nots. The haves, Charles, I'm gonna make it real plain for the viewers. The haves, meaning the haves, the folks that got the money, they can send their kids to private school right now. What this bill does is supplement money that they were already going to pay to send little Johnny and Julie to their private, whether it's a Catholic or whatever kind of private school it is. This bill will then allow your tax dollars to help give them another tax break. It's like the well-off, they get these tax breaks that the middle class and the poor don't get because they know all the loopholes. It benefits the well-off and the well-to-do. Well, that's what this bill is designed to do. It is designed to take money away from our public schools, dollars that would have been going to our public schools, and allow that money to go to the private schools. But here's what they're not telling you, that this doesn't cover the full cost of the private school. So let's say, for instance, hypothetically, that private school tuition is $15,000. Well, guess what? You're up for the rest of that difference. This bill doesn't give you that. This bill doesn't cover transportation. And all those private schools, just like the public schools, they have to accept the children with disabilities, the children that come from broken homes, and the kids that can't speak good English, that don't speak no English, the kids that come from troubled backgrounds. These private schools don't have to accept them. They can discriminate. They can say, well, you were accepted or you were rejected. Public schools don't do that. This bill would hurt Jones and Yates and Wheatley and Sterling and the schools in Fifth Ward and Acres Home, because this bill would take money out that would be supporting those public schools that are already underfunded, Charles. They're already underfunded. That is why this Alief ISD superintendent, which is a good man, the first African-American superintendent of Alief ISD, is there to say, he's sounding the alarm bell, say, hey, this is going to gut us. And so what he's telling you is that this bill is going to be detrimental. So this is an action alert so that you and the people can weigh in and say, and like he said, private schools are not required to accept students with ESA or any student. Public schools like Alief ISD educate all students without regard to their abilities, disabilities, or socioeconomic standing. That is the key right there. That is a different from these private schools. So we, as African Americans, should be wholeheartedly against this bill because it's going to hurt us, Black and brown communities. And that is what we're seeing, Charles, is an assault on public schools.
Let me add this right there.
Yeah.
So when we filed against HISD in 2014, discriminatory practices with the Department of Education, Patterns and Practice Division, I ran across a budget breakdown of HISD, where their money comes from. 76% of HISD funding comes from property taxes.
Yes, sir.
20% comes from the state, and 4% comes from the federal government. Now, this is something that I'm asking you and alerting you, and for you to try to help us. Sometimes people say, and this was a tactic when I was in the school district. I've been in 11 different school districts across the state, and all of them had a version of this. They asked parents or adults, do you have a child in XYZ ISD. And there was a school board member on the south side that was captured on video. The question was asked by the ISD people. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions? This lady on the tapes started giving her suggestions. The school board rep interrogated her like this: "Ma'am, do you have a child in HISD?" She responded and said no. Then he responded and said, "I think it's disingenuous of you to make recommendations of us, and you don't even have a child in HISD." Stop the press. Right there, the answer is whether I have a child in HISD or not. I'm a property taxpayer. I'm paying taxes whether I have a child in HISD or not. And I'm going to voice my opinion. Ain't a damn thing you can say about it. We need to get that message over to the larger community that is larger than just the parents. Because the parents, there's even there's standing. If you live in an apartment, you have standing.
That's right, Charles. I'm glad you pointed that out.
So we have to educate the broader public to get involved, and we have an initiative that's going to start with MC Williams, and we're going to try to have it with Jones to start with, where we create a broader base around these schools of taxpayers and parents to be engaged.
Well, Charles, that's why I appreciate your platform, because you are committed towards educating our community, all people, because a lot of people are asleep at the wheel and don't have the subject matter expertise on issues that impact them that they may or may not be aware of. So that's why I was happy to come on to talk about this. I think the superintendent is right. And I think that people need to understand that they have standing and a stake in the outcome, just because they are a resident in that community, whether or not they're a property owner or whether or not they have children in the district. If you are a resident within that zone, then you have a stake in what happens within that community. That is your community. And no one should feel lesser than or greater than because they have a kid in the district. If they have a kid in the district, they have more of a responsibility to be involved in the PTO and attend those meetings. But certainly you have a stake in the legislation that will impact those schools, because the greatest indicator of communities in terms of safety is the strong value of their school. So goes the school, so goes the neighborhood. And if we don't have good, strong public schools, then our communities will crumble. Our kids will not have a pathway to success. The crime rate goes up. Dropout rate goes up. Teenage pregnancy goes up. So that is why it's so important that we band together to protect our neighborhood schools. And this bill right here, this would hurt our neighborhood schools. That's why it's so important that we killed this bill. This bill has been killed for the last, I've been in the office now, Charles, for this is my 7th term. I've already completed about 13 years in office, and this bill has come up, has never got this momentum. But all of a sudden, because of this far right movement in led by Governor Abbott, trying to appease the far right, now all of a sudden this type of legislation is getting traction, and other legislation like ending diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is a movement to appease the far right base in the Republican primary that tends to vote for initiatives like this, and he's trying to appease them for his potential presidential aspirations. So I just made it plain for the viewers: we're being used as pawns in his political chess moves.
Okay, now Hopefully we'll get this Brandon Creighton.
Creighton,
The
yeah, he's a
chair,
chair.
he's
Right.
the chair, and his phone number.
I see you got it listed.
Can you see it?
I can see it. Yeah, you got it listed in the chat. I see it in the chat.
You do? Okay. Uh, well, we want the audience, people in the audience. This is the chair of the Education Committee in the Senate, and we'd like for you to start calling him to tell him do not move forward on this Senate Bill 8. Now, what's the House? Do you know the House bill?
I'll get that. I'll get that number while we're here. I'll get it. There is a House bill, and let me.
But if it's dead in the Senate, is it dead in the
Oh,
House?
it's dead. The Senate is dead. It's dead. Yeah, it can't move. It needs to be both. And
Okay.
let me tell you this. They're struggling to get support because all the Democrats are against it and the moderate Republicans are against it. So if we continue to rally, this bill will be dead. Rule Republicans are against it. Moderate Republicans are against it. All Democrats are against it. So if we continue to make some noise, we have an ability to kill this bill. Lieutenant Governor Patrick, as powerful as he is, he's having trouble getting this bill passed. We need to keep that momentum going, Charles. And I'm so happy that you chose to highlight this so that people can be engaged and push back so we can keep this bill from passing. This is one of the few glimmers of hopes that I have this session. If we can kill this bill, we can mitigate some of the damage that is happening this legislative session.
Well, we had an opportunity when there was a bill to separate TSU Law School from TSU University. And we did a phone call campaign, and we plugged up the switchboard in Austin.
And you killed that bill. You killed it. Yeah, no, Charles, no BS. You helped kill that bill. That bill was gaining momentum, and because of those calls, because of those people being engaged, because of the people blowing it up, it died. And so this bill is close, but we're not there yet. So we need all the listeners on Facebook Live that can hear the sound of our voices to help your neighborhood schools, to help Alief ISD, HISD, Fort Bend ISD, Humble ISD, Aldine ISD, all the ISDs. I just tried to name some of the ones that were in the area. All the ISDs will benefit if we kill this bill. I don't know. There's no superintendent in Texas that is for this bill. There's no board of trustee that I know that's for this bill. This bill is being pushed by the far right extremists. Those are the people that want this bill. And if you value with them and the people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th, then you might want to be for this bill. But otherwise, I'm telling you now, you can look at this bill, and this is a summary. It's bad for public education.
Well, we're gonna do another robocall message, and we're going to include these phone numbers, at least 2 phone numbers.
Oh, so
if we call the chair, and if we call the lieutenant governor, are those 2 of the main numbers?
Yeah, I think the chair and then the vice chair, which is listed. You got it listed on the sheet. Donna Campbell, she's the vice chair.
Okay.
And her number is 512-463-0125. Donna Campbell is the vice chair, 512-463-0125. I think that'll be great. I think that will certainly help. And they don't need to call Royce West and some of these other people on here that they not.
No.
So they need to stick with them, blow their phones up, and let them know, weigh in that you are against Senate Bill 8. You don't have to elaborate.
No.
You don't have to go into a diatribe. Make your voices heard by saying you are against Senate Bill 8, and that bill should not advance. There's been no vote yet. So this is very timely that we're having this conversation tonight, because there are some who are trying to push it. But right now it's stuck in committee. It has not got out of the committee yet to the floor.
Okay, so we're gonna keep working on the phone calls. We're gonna post it in our e-blast, and we're working on something for next Friday.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, man.
Okay. Now let's go to HISD and TEA.
Okay.
What's behind that? Now I've told people what's behind it is land.
That,
Is one of them.
Doc,
What?
land is certainly one of them. It's a control. It's a power grab. It's about money. It's about resources. It's about contracts. It's about the once the TEA takes over, then they can appoint their own superintendent and board of managers that is controlling the day-to-day operations of the district. And that way, if they want to close a school to allow a private charter to take over it, that means that somebody's going to make money off of those students. Right now, only the public schools are private industry can't make a money off of it unless they get a contract, a direct contract, meaning that they have a contract for goods and services. So if it's a new building, they make architects, engineers, construction folks make plenty of money off of building and renovations. When you charterize it, then some private entity owns that and they can make a lot of money. Kips and Harmonies, they're making great money, Charles. I don't know if you know that or not, but they're making.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
they're making plenty of money. So there are some who want to siphon off a weekly and make it a public charter, and therefore someone can make money off of it. There are other people who want to sell the land to a private developer for development, a retail center, a strip center, instead of a school, another school. Those are the kind of decisions that a board of managers will be to make with no accountability. You remember a few months ago when they Millard House wanted to get rid of the Yates principle, and then the community stood up and said, no, no, no. Well, that board knew that those community people were the ones who elected them. Then they said, no, you're not going to fire this principal. No, not on these reasons. And so the superintendent wasn't able to do it. Well, if it's a board of managers, there is no accountability because they're not elected.
Well, let me ask you this, because there was a board of managers in place at North Forest ISD.
That's correct. That's
when correct. HISD took it over.
That's correct.
So how can the North Forest Independent School District be penalized with a school that had TEA monitors in HISD? So you had TEA monitors and board of managers at North Forest, and you had TEA monitors inside of HISD. What constitutes the logic of them letting North Forest go into a school that's failing, a district that's low performing? I'm gonna put it like that.
Charles, you just pointed out a great point. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, when people do the research, they'll see that TEA does not have a good track record when they take over schools. They don't have a good track record. They didn't have a good track record with North Forest. There's other school districts. There's been papers and research and think tanks that have showed this evidence. So the TEA, there's no evidence of better outcomes. Under Millard House and this new board, HISD has been going up. They currently have a B+ rating. They have raised Wheatley to a C+, and they are making significant progress even during the pandemic. So this TEA takeover is really unfounded, in my opinion, and it's unnecessary when they are showing that they're going in the right direction, for one, and for two, until you prove to me that you could do a better job. That's what a little small district like North Forest. These other districts that they've taken over, the largest one has been El Paso, which is only a fraction of the size of HISD. They don't know what the hell they're getting into, Charles, to pardon my French, but they're in way over their heads. And our kids are going to be experiments. They're going to be test cases for something of this magnitude. TEA doesn't have the capacity to do this. There is no reason that they're going to do this other than about money and about control. They want to be able to control the resources, the contracts. They're likely going to give it to their donors. They don't want to do anything when it comes to minority participation, so that folks that look like us get contracts to do work within the district. They don't want people on the board that probably have the philosophy that may not align with Governor Abbott's, who doesn't believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, who believes this nonsense of critical race theory, where they shouldn't be teaching about slavery and Jim Crow and the atrocities that the many of our forefathers and ancestors went through. They don't want that taught in schools. So they want to put people in place that believe those philosophies, and those are the people that are going to be the board of managers running HISD, not the people that we have access to in Third Ward and South Side, Sunnyside, and Acres Home, and other places. They're going to be large donors. You mark my words. They're going to be people that aren't coming on your show. They're going to be people that aren't going to the neighborhood supermarket in the hood on MLK and Griggs. They're not going to be familiar with these schools and the challenges, the unique challenges they face in single parent households. So that is why we believe in local control. So if our school board isn't doing what they want to do, we can fire their ass. You can't fire the board of managers, Charles. You can't fire them.
Well, let me ask you this. We have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
What else is going on in the state legislature that we need to be aware of from your point of view, and then we'll close out?
Sure. So there's a lot of moving parts. One of the biggest things this week, there's a hearing in the Senate to end diversity, equity, and inclusion. You may have heard about that. So first of all, we're taking up the budget on Thursday, and the budget is House Bill 1. That is the appropriations. We have over $30 billion surplus, over $12 billion in our rainy day fund. There's no reason why we don't fully fund our HBCUs like Texas Southern and Prairie View. But in the Senate appropriations proposal, it didn't include that $1 billion request or anything near it that the president asked for and requested on behalf of Texas Southern University. So we need to demand, and the Black Caucus, I'm the chair of it, that is what we're demanding, that we fully fund our HBCUs, for one. For two, there's a hearing this Thursday in the Senate against for ending diversity, equity, and inclusion, so that in colleges and universities, they zero out funding to recruit and retain African American and Hispanic, Asian teachers and students. That is going to set us back, Charles, because right now it's barely a small population of faculty and staff on these colleges and universities, and the student population isn't diverse. And so these programs have helped make some progress. Governor Abbott is trying to pull that back. Two, the worst part about it, not the worst, but another layer is they're also trying to gut African Americans and minorities from being considered in the HUB program, historically underutilized business program. So the MWBEs, Black and Brown, let me make it plain, so that Black and Brown folks won't be able to be considered for subs and business opportunities for procurement at the state and local level. Women would still be a part of it. So white women would still be able to benefit from their minority status, but Blacks and Browns would not. That is something that's happening right now. And if we don't fight like hell against it, Charles, they're going to start taking us back when we're going to be losing contracts in the city of Houston, at Metro, at HCC, at HISD.
And we already, according to Raphael Cole and Gladys House, we're already not getting any money from the state as a independent business person.
That's right. It's poor. So I'll put that out to say it's bad now, and it only gets worse. You know how they say the good, the bad, and ugly? It's bad now, but it gets ugly if they pass this bill. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of bad bills. The good bills, Charles, aren't really getting any headway. Medicaid expansion, so Texas doesn't continue to lead the nation, the highest number of uninsured. Black women, Charles, still lead the nation in maternal deaths and infant mortality. So we're not doing anything about that. We're not doing anything to address the high level of gun violence and mass shootings with common sense gun reforms and red flag laws and closing the gun show loophole. So the things that most Texans agree with that unite us, they're not doing. They're focusing on these big social conservative issues like ending DEI and vouchers and assault on the LGBTQ community. That we saw a lot of those bills last week. So I'm asking that your viewers stay engaged. They continue to plug into your show because you get it out there and weigh in. Don't. This is not a spectator sport. This is a sport, and it's not really a sport. I'm using an analogy. This is something that you have to be engaged in, be involved, make your voices heard. Call in to the number that we gave you tonight to Brandon Creighton.
Okay, can you give us a call to action?
That's what I was just saying. Make sure that you call your state representative. Make sure that you call your state senator. Make sure you call Governor Abbott. He is the governor for all of us. Call Lieutenant Governor Patrick. And make sure that you call Brandon Creighton, the Senate.
And Donna Campbell.
And Donna Campbell, the vice chair. Brandon Creighton number, we gave it to you. And I'm going to repeat it. It's 512-463-0104. We put it up there. Donna Campbell's the vice chair, 512-463-0125. This is the stakes are high, y'all. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. It is time to make good trouble, in the words of John Lewis. It is time to speak truth to power. It is time to use your voice. Your vote is your voice. And if you didn't vote, this is a real time of why elections matter, because these decisions are going to be made by people who are here to be representing your interests. I'm asking that you make your voices heard at the Capitol. If you can, get here and testify in front of these committees. If you can't get here, pick up the phone. Use your platform on your social media. Raise the awareness, because if these bills go into law, they're going to impact you one way or another, either directly or indirectly. So, Charles, it's always a pleasure and a privilege to come. This is a great production, charity productions that you have, a great community platform. I really appreciate you always being there for the community, whether it's at your breakfasts, your town hall meetings, or these virtual platforms via Facebook Live. You are a great person in the community, and I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk about these issues, about public education, about the hostile TEA takeover of HISD, about the governor's attempt to end diversity, equity, and inclusion, because he's competing with Governor DeSantis in Florida, who ended African-American studies. He can't let him out-Trump him. And so don't let them use us as pawns. It is time to fight. It is time to mobilize. We wasn't there, at least my generation wasn't there during the civil rights movement, but this is our civil rights moment, not on our watch. Let's not go down without a fight.
All right, so we want to say for Charity Productions, the special edition, legislative special edition with State Representative Ron Wilson. This is Community Views and Solutions signing off. We'll see you next month. Thank you.